All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer where we are completely decoding the true scientific nature of our emotions. We're going way beyond just feelings today to look at the hard neuroscience of why our bodies react the way they do. And, maybe most importantly, we're going to look at how we can actually grab the steering wheel and regulate our own emotional biology. It's going to be a fun one, so let's get into it.
So right off the bat, do you actually know what an emotion is? I think most of us naturally assume they're just those conscious feelings we experience in our heads, right? Like feeling happy or feeling sad or getting super angry at some guy cutting you off in traffic. But to truly understand our brains and to unlock the ability to control our reactions, we have to completely shatter that assumption. Think about the fundamental difference between a reflex and an emotion. A reflex, it's binary, it's immediate, it's like instantly yanking your hand off a hot stove. Bam, it's a fixed, thoughtless action. But an emotion, like say, reacting to a bear suddenly stepping out in the woods, is this incredibly flexible, highly complex biological response. You don't just have a single muscle twitch. Your body kicks off this entirely adaptable cascade that's calculating the distance of the bear, scanning your surroundings, and plotting escape routes, all to prep you to fight, hide, or run for your life.
So scientifically speaking, an emotion is absolutely not just a fleeting feeling. It is a highly coordinated, functional biological state that literally hijacks your entire nervous system to solve a problem. It's changing your heart rate, shifting your visual focus, and priming your muscles. And it does all of this before you even realize you're feeling anything at all.
Okay, so every true biological emotion out there shares three distinct features. First up is priority. An emotion immediately interrupts whatever else you're doing. If you're just happily picking berries and you hear a predator snap a twig, that emotion prioritizes your survival and takes over completely. Second is scalability. Emotions scale up and down in intensity. A potential threat starts as just mild anxiety, right? But it scales up to fear as it gets closer and peaks at absolute panic. And third, temporal persistence. Basically, an emotion lasts over time. Long after that predator is gone, that heightened state actually persists in your biology to keep you vigilant.
To really grasp how deep this temporal persistence goes, listen to this fascinating study out of the University of Iowa. They worked with patients who had severe amnesia, people who literally couldn't form new memories longer than a minute or two. So, researchers showed them a deeply sad movie clip. A few minutes after the clip ended, they asked the patients how they felt. Universally, they reported feeling overwhelming sadness, and many were weeping. But when the researchers asked them why they were sad, or if they even remembered watching a movie, nothing. They had absolutely zero declarative memory of it. This just perfectly proves that an emotional state can persist in your body and drive your behavior even when your conscious intellectual memory of the trigger is completely wiped clean.
And that brings us to a massive paradigm shift. We have to totally untangle the emotion, which is that functional, biological, bodily state driving your survival, from the feeling, which is merely your subjective, conscious experience of that state. The feeling is essentially just your brain waking up and observing what your physical body is already doing.
All right, moving on to Section 1, the myth of facial expressions and why we so often misread the room.
You know, we walk through life incredibly overconfident in our ability to read a room or judge someone's inner mood just by looking at a static snapshot of their face. But as the research clearly shows, our conviction that we can tell something about a person's emotional state just from their facial expressions vastly outstrips our actual accuracy. We are just not as good at this as we think we are.
So why do we get it so wrong? Well, for decades, classic psychology lab studies basically used posed, exaggerated facial expressions. They had actors making these wildly cartoonish, angry, disgusted, or sad faces and asked subjects to basically play a matching game with a list of words. But out in the real world, human interaction isn't a static photograph. It's dynamic. We look at subtle, shifting changes in behavior over time, we listen to vocal cadence, and we rely heavily on deep social context. We need a moving time series of data, not a frozen face, to truly understand what someone is actually feeling.
Which brings us to Section 2, Mastering Emotion Regulation. Let's look at some interventions that actually work.
So if emotions are just these physical states, how do we hack them? Well, take the deliberate cold exposure or ice bath protocol. Step 1. You get in, and the cold shock triggers massive autonomic arousal. It's essentially forcing a panic state in your body while you freeze. But then, step 2, as you stay in that cold and actively control your breathing, your nervous system learns automatic downregulation. You're quite literally forcing your body to relax while being bathed in stress chemicals. And that leads to step 3, generalized resilience. By routinely training his biology in an ice bath, neuroscientist Dr. Ralph Adolphs noted that he just automatically stopped getting angry at everyday psychological stressors like obnoxious drivers in traffic. You're training your biology to stay totally calm under emotional fire.
Now, another incredible intervention involves pushing your physical limits even further. I'm talking specifically about 100 miles, as in enduring a full ultramarathon. Enduring a massive physical struggle, like a 100-mile race, forces your brain to really integrate long-term temporal persistence. Think about it. Runners go through these extreme, agonizing physical lows, blisters, vomiting, pure exhaustion, desperately wanting to quit at mile 40. But by simply refusing to give up, the brain learns a crucial lesson. It learns that deep, catastrophic lows can eventually level out into a state of relentless optimism. You are teaching your nervous system that pain is temporary and that a positive emotional state can be stretched and maintained over a brutal 30-hour physical ordeal. It completely rewires your baseline for handling adversity.
All right, let's look at Section 3, training your social brain, focusing on context and focus.
It's really fascinating when you look at modern webcam data to see how different people process social situations. In the general population, visual attention is highly fluid, but it leans really heavily toward looking directly at faces for information. However, on the autism spectrum, visual attention is this highly stable, trait-like feature characterized by contextual distractibility. That means the gaze is naturally and persistently drawn away from faces and toward background objects or movement. It proves that how we visually process social emotion isn't broken or wrong in different populations. It's simply a stable, measurable, and profound variation in human personality and brain wiring.
To better process our hyper-stimulating world and manage our daily cognitive load, we can use this really effective three-step transition protocol. Step 1. You have to recognize the massive cognitive cost of task switching. Your brain literally carries emotional and electrical residue from your last stressful meeting right into your next one. Step 2, insert 3 to 5 minutes of pure meditative silence between those tasks. And Step 3, engage the new task with a cleared mind. By forcing just a moment of silence, just sitting with your own thoughts and turning off the external stimuli, you effectively decouple from those previous emotional distractions. You're actively clearing out the biological noise, allowing your brain's circuits to totally reset for optimal focus.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought. If you can train your autonomic nervous system to regulate your deepest emotional states, which of your feelings are you going to choose to rewrite today? Because now you know your emotions aren't just mysterious clouds that happen to float by and ruin your day. They are trainable, measurable, biological states. Whether it's through cold exposure, silence, or physical endurance, you hold the tools to change your biological state. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer on the science of emotions. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.